What is up, guys? It's Doo Poker here, back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about this hand. Okay, so it's very important. The most important thing you can do when you're in a hand is understand who you're playing against. Okay, so in poker, your strategy is 100% dependent upon your opponent's strategy. Always. Okay, if your opponent does X, you do Y, right? Now, the hard thing is knowing what your opponent is going to do so that you can combat his strategy with your strategy. But there are clues, okay? We're kind of like a detective when we play a hand, right? We have to look at the clues, okay? So, what would you say about this hand? What would you do in this spot? We have King, Queen of Hearts. We raise up under the gun for a min raise. We get 3-bet by the cutoff, and we call. Okay? Face a bet on the flop, we call. Face a bet on the turn, we call. And we face a jam on the river. Okay, so think about this hand for a bit. Okay? Now, most people will tell you to fold here. Okay? And I understand why people will tell you to say that. This is why people will tell you to fold. People will say this. Monotone boards are underbluffed, right? So you should fold. Triple barrels are underbluffed, so you should fold, right? And those are all true statements, but it's missing one key piece of information. What is the key piece of information? We have to know if we're playing a reg or a fish, okay? Because all those statements are conditional statements. All those statements are predicated upon our opponent being a reg, okay? So let's go down the list. Do we think our opponent is a reg or a fish? Well, he looks to be tight. His PFR VPIP gap is about 5%, which is pretty standard. We have 196 hands. Nothing out of the ordinary. He has a full stack or 200 big blinds. This is a 25-cent big blind game. He looks to be a reg by all accounts. But there's one data point that makes him not a reg. What is that data point? The data point is the flop. What is the most common c-bet sizing from a fish? We know this from MDA. 50%. Fish love 50% sizing. They love no man's land. They bet 50 because they don't really know what they're doing, right? They don't want to go too big, but they don't want to go too small, so they bet 50, right? Let's look at a solver. What does a solver do in this spot? A solver, let's say, we're under the gun, we get 3-bet by the cutoff. Look what a solver does. A solver never goes bet 50. It goes 20%, sometimes 1/3, but never 50, right? So, what do we know? What do we know about fish? Fish love bet 50, right? Fish love triple barreling in 3-bet pots as the imposition pre-flop raiser. Okay, so we know that fish over bluff in the triple barrel line. Remember, we have to know, the most important thing we have to know is this player a fish or a reg? Okay, so here's ways we can identify a fish. 1, you've never seen him before in your pool. If you play in a small pool and you see a new player, it's more likely than not he's a fish. Why? Because regs play every day. Now, he could be a reg moving up or moving down, but all things being equal, he's more likely a fish. Non-GTO sizing, pre-flop or post-flop. Boom, right here. Non-GTO sizing. This is a reg data point. I mean, a fish data point. Number 3 fish data point. You see him limp. Well, we've never seen this guy limp, so that is not relevant for this spot. VPIP PFR gap, 9% or more. This guy does not apply. Short stack. This guy does not apply. Bet 50 sizing on the flop. This is the most important data point in the whole hand. Okay? This is literally This makes him more likely to be a fish than not because he bet 50 on the flop. Because not only is it not GTO sizing, it's also the most common fish sizing. So two things going in our favor. But if he was a reg, you should fold because of the reasons we stated in the beginning. But fish are not sensitive to board texture. They will overbluff. They overbluff monotone boards because they're not sensitive to board texture. Okay? And we also know they overbluff in the triple barrel line. Okay? So you have to understand these two important points. Okay? So, in game, I raise. I get 3-bet. I call. He bet 50 on the flop. Okay, that's the first thing. So your antenna should be up. Bet 50 in a non-bet 50 spot, right? So now, even though he has everything reg-like with his stack, with his sizing, with his VPIP, PFR gap, the bet 50 is the tell, okay? So now he bets turn, we call, he bets river, and we call, and he has jack 7, okay? So you have to pay very close attention when you're playing poker. There are little things and nuanced things that can tip this between a fold and a call. Because if this was versus a reg, it would be a bad call. In fact, in a solver, let's see what a solver does. A solver on the river has it as a, let's see what it has. It has it as a huge losing call. Almost -6 big blind losing call. So versus a reg, you fold, but since we know it's a fish and it's overbluffed, it actually becomes a really, really bad fold. So folding this now would be a huge punt. In the same way that if he's a reg, calling's a huge punt. Now we know he's a fish. Now folding's a huge punt. All right, guys? So pay attention to all these little things when you're playing against your opponents, and you'll pick up on these things, and then that will help you make an informed decision when you're on the river. All right, guys? Please subscribe if you haven't. Just started this new channel. Appreciate you guys and your support, and I will see you in the next video.